Thanks everybody for spending Father's Day with us. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll crack on from where we left off last time. There was actually a meditation that I wanted to lead last session that we'll do this session instead. Maybe I should just pick up on, we've been talking a little bit about if you have a materialistic worldview, it doesn't really make sense to seek out a Buddhist refuge or a Dharmic refuge. But unless you have kind of a wider perspective on who we are and what consciousness is, and how it doesn't just pop into existence when we're born, and how it doesn't just turn into nothing when we die. Unless you have that, then Dharma makes much less sense. But also, if you have this materialistic worldview, then death for most people becomes something really to fear. We're like, oh dear, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I don't want to die. In a sense, that's actually, I wouldn't say pathetic, but it's like not wanting the rain to rain or the sun to rise. So like the weather, there's no point in getting upset about it because it is inevitable. And it's the same with death. So instead of lamenting about death, we should really prepare ourselves to instead die well. We should prepare ourselves to transform our death into the most glorious event of our lives. So transform the whole dying process into our final act in this life, like the greatest adventure that we're embarking upon. And there's a book by Lama Zopa called How to Enjoy Death, and has all the information on how to do that in it. But that's what our death could be about. And sometimes it's said that Dharma or Buddhist practice it's all about dying well, because if we have prepared our minds well, if we're confident that we've been virtuous and avoiding non-virtue, if we've done the best to cultivate stability of our mind and cultivate wisdom and compassion, then when it's time to die, then we know we've done our best, and then we can take refuge in that. But we can't do that if we don't have the Dharma, if we don't have refuge. So for someone who lacks this refuge, then death is nothing more than just the loss of absolutely everything we value. So then death becomes kind of pointless. But if you have the Dharma, then death just becomes a transition into the next state of existence. And and obviously then for that to be like a safe transition, as I said, that's when we need our refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and the Sangha. And there are different levels of refuge. So those who practice Theravada Buddhism, they take refuge specifically in the historical Buddha, who is now, long gone, as of 2,000 years or so, a little more. And they take refuge in the teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma, as it's recorded in the Pali Canon. And they take refuge in the Sangha, which are the noble beings of the past and also the present. And this is an authentic, true refuge. It is a refuge that we can trust to find our own liberation, our own nirvana. But then in the Mahayana, there's what you can call the uncommon taking of refuge in the Mahayana tradition. So, and from this perspective, the Buddha is not just a historical figure who was enlightened thousands of years ago and then turned the wheel of Dharma and then passed into parinirvana, never to be heard from, abiding in some inconceivability of nirvana. So in Mahayana, our refuge is not just the historical individual who died, who passed into parinirvana. It's the refuge is actually the Dharmakaya, which is the mind of the Buddha, that has no beginning, no end, that is all pervasive, all benevolent, all knowing. So it's the mind of the Buddha. We take refuge in the mind of the Buddha, who is also, that's what the nature of our own mind is, also in that nature. The nature of our own mind also emanates from the Dharmakaya. So, and then we take refuge in myriad of manifestations. So Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya manifestations throughout space, which are the manifestations of the Buddha mind that we can interact with, that we can receive teachings from, for example. So there's these myriad of manifestations that embody enlightened wisdom, enlightened compassion, enlightened power. And we take refuge in the Mahayana teachings of the Buddha, the teachings on the Bodhisattva way of life, the six perfections, the great perfection of wisdom. So from this perspective, then taking on refuge, it takes on a much deeper, much broader, vaster sense than simply entrusting ourselves to an enlightened being who passed away. And so these uncommon practices of refuge, the uncommon practice of bodhicitta, that's not found in the Pali Canon. It's found in the Mahayana and of course the Vajrayana, and it's not simply an aspiration. So anyone can say, I'd really like to achieve Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. That sounds super cool to me. So anyone can hear about Buddhahood and say that sounds great. It's like that would be like a person hearing about a lottery. Oh, wow, I'd like to win $500 million. That sounds pretty cool. Maybe I should get myself a lottery ticket, and then, who knows, but that's probably not going to happen. So it's not just an aspiration, which would be very cheap. So bodhicitta is actually, it's a resolve, it's a promise, it's a commitment. So it's an intention rooted in the four immeasurables, rooted in loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, impartiality. And it's rooted in what's called the four greats, which is great loving kindness, meaning I shall bring all sentient beings to happiness and the causes of happiness. Great compassion, I shall liberate all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering. I shall bring all sentient beings to a state of well-being, free from suffering. never parted from a sense of well-being, completely free from dissatisfaction. I shall do this. And, just saying or resolving, committing to, I shall bring every sentient being to a state of equanimity, impartiality, freedom from attachment. I shall do this. But then, when we tap into that kind of vision, the response is like, who do you think you are? You're gonna free all sentient beings, like all of them? Do you have like a messianic problem? Do you have a problem of megalomania? I was like, what's wrong with you? Like, that's an insane idea. But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with me, unless I think that, Martin Strom, this 48-year-old guy from Sweden, can do that. That would be completely hysterical. That would be crazy. But that's not actually the referent when I say I shall do these things. So the referent that actually goes down to the very ground of our being, to pristine awareness, to Dharmakaya, to Buddha nature. So if we have that as the basis of imputation, then I am, I shall, then it becomes realistic. So bodhicitta is I shall achieve the perfect enlightenment of the Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. Every sentient being throughout space and time, of all the 6 realms of existence. For their sake, I shall achieve enlightenment. And it's saying, listen, everyone be my witness, all the Buddhas be my witness. I'm making this promise. Let my words echo throughout space and time. I shall achieve such enlightenment and do it as the greatest possible way to be of service to all sentient beings. And I shall strive towards the achievement of my own enlightenment. I shall continue to serve the needs of every sentient being for as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain. So shall I remain until every sentient being is free. So that's bodhicitta, and that kind of resolve is only possible if we have the view of ourselves that the true refuge is within ourselves. So the true refuge is our own ultimate nature. So all the ways that the Buddhas manifest in the world, as the historical Buddha, and the 996 Buddhas that will follow in this time period, and as it manifests as our teachers and gurus, but also as Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, Tara, and so on. So those are the manifestations of that very same nature, or that very same Buddha mind, and that very same Dharmakaya. So that's what I go for refuge in. So we have these outer representations of refuge, but they are all ultimately pointing towards our own true nature. And if and only if we can tap into that, then we can make our lives truly meaningful, and then we can strive towards this highest of achievements, which is bodhicitta. And if we can do that, then we can certainly die well, we can be completely relaxed as we approach death, and be aware that this is just a powerful transition into another form. And if we have really tapped into this commitment of bodhicitta, if we have really tapped into true refuge, then there's nothing we need to worry about. We can just carry on, and all the connections that we have made to teachers and to the Dharma, there will be this karmic momentum for us to carry that on and pick up in our, whatever our next life will be, and again connect to the Dharma, and again connect to teachers, and again connect to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in whom we took refuge. So I thought like I said, I wanted to do a little meditation that I planned for last session, and along the lines of what I've just been talking about. But I thought before doing that, maybe I would just pause and see if there are any questions or reflections on what I've just been talking about so far.
Well, I have one, okay, for my homework for the middle way stuff with Chernoff. He has a question. What constitutes the bodhisattva? What's the famous bodhisattva quote? Would that be, imagine all beings as your mother? Was once your mother? I don't know. Famous, that's all relative. I don't know.
So sorry, the question, if cultivating bodhicitta, is that the same as seeing all?
No. He says, what is the famous definition of bodhicitta?
Mm-hmm.
So it's some kind of cliche, and the only one I can think of is that all beings were your mother.
Sorry, it's your audio is a bit.
Okay,
sorry,
forget about it. I'm thinking
No,
about it. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
I'm sorry, I don't. But yeah, sorry. It's so. But
Don't worry about it. Just move on.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
cool. It's cool.
No, I'm so sorry. But yeah, but just this, just on this idea of, all beings, all sentient beings having been our mother, which is, if we have the view of consciousness being beginningless, and we have all circled throughout samsara in all possible states of existence and all possible states of being, and beginningless, that's a very, very, very long time. And during that same time, all other sentient beings have also circled throughout samsara. So from that logic, you can see that, in this life, I had a mother, but then in my previous life, maybe I was the mother of the mother I had in this life. And, going back and back, we actually have had all possible kinds of relationships to all possible sentient beings, meaning that every sentient being has at some point been our mother, and every sentient being has at some point cared for us like a mother, and made sure that we have the things we need to grow up, and we learn the things we need, and all sentient beings have displayed the care and love of a mother towards us. So this kind of contemplation is just a way of really nurturing a sense of deep connectedness to all sentient beings, because everyone you see, also you will eventually you will end up being their mother, and there will be your mother again. And even though they seem like strangers in this life, or they might even seem like enemies in this life, or, you know, difficult people, but we've had all types of relationships to all the beings that we encounter. And this is then a really, really strong foundation for developing impartial loving kindness, impartial compassion, and then great loving kindness, great compassion, which is then the basis of developing bodhicitta. So this recognizing all beings as our mothers, and then wishing to repay the kindness that has been shown to us, and that then becomes the seed of great compassion and the seed of bodhicitta. So they're intimately connected that way. But and then it all comes back again to this idea of like shifting our view of the world, our worldview, our view of who we are, our view of who everyone else is, and you know, what we're discussing here is so far, and you can't come further away from a materialistic worldview, from a worldview of strict physicality, where matter is the only thing that exists, and the only thing that matter, I guess. But if we can, you know, through, yeah, sorry.
The only thing that matters. I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, sorry for the pun.
That's great.
But yeah, but I mean, through our own, and we'll, you know, come into that a little later, you know, if we, through our own experience, you know, we partake in teachings, and we also meet holy beings, you know, like Lama Zopa, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and we can really start to trust that there is something there, and, you know, the teachings start to make sense, and then we start to implement it in our own lives. We apply logic at every step on the way, and we apply it to our own experience, and then we deepen this completely different view in our minds. So that is like it's an ongoing process of just turning. It's like a revolution at the deepest level of how we view reality, and that's in a deep sense, that's also what refuge is, and it's something that it's not just knowing something intellectually. It's a process of tapping into and making these kind of experiences in meditation, from listening to teachings, from interacting with holy beings, and so on. Yeah, so I didn't quite catch the comment or the question in the beginning, but I went ahead and gave an answer anyway. So I hope it was it was useful. And I don't know, Shella, did you have a comment or question on?
Yes, I obviously I'm a new practitioner. So when you said Dharmakaya is the mind of the Buddha, does that mean only the historical Buddha, or is that one of the 996 Buddhas that will manifest it, you know, in this time?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So so according to, well, both the Theravada and the Mahayana, they're in this, you know, era that we live in, and I guess from a scientific point of view, that might be from the Big Bang or whatever, but, you know, from a Buddhist perspective, there is, the world moves in cycle, where a world system will come into existence, and then it will go out of existence. So so during this time period, there has been 4 Buddhas, and Buddha Shakyamuni was the 4th one to appear in our world in this time, and then the next one will be Buddha Maitreya, and so on. So there will be like 1,000 Buddhas manifesting, and they all manifest when the Dharma has disappeared from this world. And so we're like in a period of decline where the Dharma will eventually not be available, because there will be no one practicing and no one teaching the Dharma. And then a new Buddha will appear to again turn the wheel of Dharma and bring these teachings into the world. And so that's one perspective, but from the perspective of the Mahayana, it's also true that there are, first of all, there's like an infinite number of worlds. From a scientist might call that like multiple universes or something like that. But so there's this infinite amount of worlds, and there's actually this infinite amount of Buddhas. So there's these manifestation of Buddhas that we can't really perceive. If we were Arya beings, then we could directly perceive Buddhas such as Avalokiteshvara or Manjushri or Tara, or Buddhas like Amoghasiddhi or Amitabha, Ratnasambhava, and so on. So there are these myriads of manifestations of Buddhas that are present, but from our current state of mind, we can't actually perceive them. So then the Buddhas also manifests in what's called Nirmanakaya forms, which are, so they manifest in these forms for our benefits. And that could really be, as far as we know, that could be anything. Obviously, you would see His Holiness the Dalai Lama would be a Nirmanakaya manifestation of the Buddha Avalokiteshvara in a form that we can perceive. But you never know. The dog that you meet on the street might be a Nirmanakaya manifestation of Buddha mind. We could never tell, and anyone you meet could actually be an enlightened bodhisattva or a fully enlightened Buddha, just manifesting in a form that is beneficial to us, that is helpful to us, and also something that we can perceive given our own karmic limitations and our own limitations in terms of afflictions and so on. So there's, from the Mahayana perspective, there are plenty of Buddhas. There's not just, for Theravada Buddhists, there was the historical Buddha, and that's kind of it. And also from that perspective, the whole idea that anyone can just become a bodhisattva and then become a fully enlightened Buddha, that would be just a preposterous notion. Again, who do you think you are that can just think you can become a fully enlightened Buddha, on par with the historical Buddha Shakyamuni? But so different perspectives. But from the Mahayana perspective, like Lama Zopa says, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are everywhere all the time. It's just that we're not able to perceive that, but we can start to trust that and receive the blessings from all those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then ultimately, it's all manifestations of Dharmakaya. So it's so the ultimate essence of reality is Dharmakaya, which is the union of emptiness and luminosity. So it's emptiness, meaning that is this potential for things to manifest, and luminosity being the way, the way that things manifest in the world. So it's not, emptiness doesn't mean that it's a nothingness. It's this vibrant field of potentiality, and it is luminosity also means that it is in the nature of love. It's in the nature of compassion, and that's the true foundation of the reality we perceive. It's the true foundation of who we are. It's the true nature of the Buddhas who manifest in the world, and yeah, so that's our ultimate refuge. So I would just add, does that clear anything up, or just create more
That
confusion?
clears it up. No, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, I think it's time to do that meditation that I've been on about, and so the idea for this meditation is just see if we can tap into that like that level of our own being. So it's so there's this really well used metaphor of a clear blue sky and clouds. So the clear blue sky in the metaphor is our Buddha nature, our just this space of awareness, which is who we actually and truly are. But then the clouds that form in this clear blue sky, that is, all the stuff that we actually identify, all the things that we think we are. So those are our thoughts and emotions and memories, and that's also our afflicted tendencies of greed and desire and jealousy and so on. It is the stories that we tell ourselves about the world, about others, about ourselves, and it's all the things that seem so real and so concrete and so very, very important. So these clouds, they kind of come up, and then they hide the sky, and all we see, all we're ever fixated on, are the clouds. So that's like the content of our awareness. So so something that is really helpful, at any, regardless of whatever level we are in our on our path, then it's really, really helpful to every now and then see if we can tap into and connect with the sky, which is always there. The clouds, they come and go. Some clouds are really scary and they seem very dark and solid and horrible. Some clouds, they might move a little quicker, but they're all in the nature of change, in the nature of impermanence. And there is nothing in the content of our experience that is static, that lasts. It all comes and goes, and none of it, none of the clouds really affect this the vastness of the clear blue sky. That is always there, and no cloud can defile the sky. No cloud can destroy the sky, or actually in any way change it. So that space of awareness, that that true nature of who we are, it's always there. It's just that it's hidden. It's kind of like, you know, the moon between or behind some really heavy dark clouds. You know, the moon is still there shining, but we might not perceive it. But then if we just, you know, place our awareness and our attention there, then eventually the clouds might break open and we get a glimpse of the moon that is behind it. And sometimes, you know, if we rest our awareness there, then the clouds will kind of part, and then we'll get a sense of the sky, which is just always present. It's always there, available for us to tap into and kind of rest in. And so this meditation that I thought we would do, it's all about starting to, in a sense, identify more with that awareness, with that clear blue open sky, and identify less with the content of our experience, with the stories we tell, and the limiting self that we think we are. So that's the idea of this meditation. And you can also describe it as going for refuge in that true nature of mind, and starting to tap into you know, Buddha nature, or I've heard it called fundamental well-being. So it's like, you know, at the deepest level, reality is a safe place. At the deepest level, there are, you know, there's this level of being that cannot be destroyed or defiled, and that's what we want to tap into. I just reminded of a quote. I can't remember some Buddhist master, of like contemporary Buddhist master, said this, but the quote is that so the bad news is that your situation is like having jumped out of an airplane without a parachute. So that's what our situation is like, which seems very scary. But then the good news is that there is no ground, meaning that the true nature of our mind is this vast, groundless, open, expansive, just space of awareness that that is actually a completely safe place. But we torment ourselves with what the stories we tell ourselves and what we project upon the world, and the things that we then perceive as dangerous and terrible, and that's why we fear death and so on. But if we can just realize that we won't hit the ground, because there is no ground. All there ever is and all there ever will be is this completely open spaciousness in the nature of love. You know, if we can start to tap into that, then we can also start to relax, because fundamentally we are all okay. We're all beyond okay. We're actually all blissfully perfect, and we all share this Buddha nature. So yeah. So anyways, let's get to that meditation. So see if you you can just find comfortable position. And we can just start by allowing our attention to drop down from the head. It's like we spend our days inside our heads, caught in planning and fixing and worrying and ruminating. So just like pouring water into a glass, just allow your attention to pour into the body. Become aware of the fact that you are embodied. Just become aware of this field of energy, this field of somatic sensations. And specifically, you can turn your attention to your breath, tuning into the rhythm of your breathing. And just allowing your awareness to rest on the breath, like a cork floating in the ocean, resting on the waves, moving up and down. Without controlling your breathing, just completely surrendering and allowing the breath to just settle in its natural rhythm. And just noticing that if we pay very close attention, it can actually be quite enjoyable to just breathe. Maybe emphasizing the out breath as a way of relaxing, releasing, letting go. And then you can allow your awareness to become more broad, more open, more panoramic. And then just take in everything that appears in your mind. Just noticing the constant flow of thoughts and impulses, emotions. And this constant flow of tactile sensations from the body. Maybe there is some pain or discomfort. Maybe there is some part of your experience that is nice. Maybe noticing sounds that come and go. But then just realizing that all these experiences are very fleeting, very, in the nature of impermanence. They change. Not for a single moment are they static. And the thoughts, the stories that appear in your mind, they seem so convincing, so real, so solid. Especially our problems, our concerns, our worries. But then if you think back a week, a month, a year, those stories were different. Problems have come and gone. If you can think back 10 years, 20 years, if you go back decades and you go back to your childhood, then the entire content of your experience has changed. Different stories, different thoughts, different impulses and emotions. So these are all like clouds in the sky, moving, changing. They're like illusory appearances, like projecting an image onto smoke. There's nothing solid to thought. If you look closer into thought, you will find practically nothing. And yet it can seem so real, so scary, so solid. Then you can also recognize that all these appearances, they, just like clouds in the clear blue sky, they appear in this space of mind. And this space is actually unmoving, inert. It's not affected by the clouds that pass through. And if you go back to a year ago, although, there were different thoughts, different problems, different mental images, different experiences, then this space of awareness, the space in which it arose, was actually the same. And even if you go back to childhood, the space of awareness where the thoughts you had back then and all the appearances of mind, the space in which they appeared, was actually the same. It was the same open, clear, spacious sky. So instead of identifying with the clouds, see if you can identify more with this space of awareness, this clear blue open sky in which the clouds appear. And sometimes the term small self and big self is used. So the small self is this claustrophobic sense of identity where, the owner of all the problems and all the dissatisfaction, that's the small self. The big self is this vast open expanse. This awareness that has no center, no periphery, no beginning, no end. And then also know that this space of awareness, this open sky, this deeper level of who you are, actually this deepest level of who you are. Also know that it is in the nature of love. It is in the nature of compassion. And maybe you can sense into that. Maybe you can tap into that realization. But if you can't, then you will need to trust the teachings of the Buddha, the teachings of the gurus with whom we have a connection. We have to trust in those who have realized and actualized their deepest potential and found it to be in the nature of love. And that's what they're teaching us. They are teaching us that we can have complete faith in and surrender completely to our ultimate nature. Because it is in the nature of interconnectedness. It is in the nature of love, compassion. And as you do this meditation, you'll find yourself constantly distracted, constantly pulled away by the clouds, by the stories. And our attention will constantly collapse in on itself and become just claustrophobically obsessed with some story or another. But if that happens, just see if you can just release that story, release that thought. You don't have to follow it, and you also don't have to make it go away, because all thoughts, they appear, they stay for a while, and then they disappear. They self-liberate. So when you're caught up in thoughts, see if you can just take this step back. In the Zen tradition, it's called the backward step. where you open up into a more spacious expanse of mind. See if you can again identify with the sky and not the clouds. And then towards the end of this meditation, see if you can just completely let go of all striving, all effort, and just rest. Just rest in the very nature of your own mind. Rest in this space of awareness that is always available. Okay. Um, thank you. So any reflections on that that meditation, on that type of practice?
I don't know how to describe it, but the imagery was very easy to follow, and um, I especially like the last part where we were able just to completely let go.
Mm. Yeah, this is something really fascinating about that, because sometimes it's like the meditation starts at the ending bell. It's like, when that ending bell comes, that's when we suddenly, relax and release. It's like we're trying really hard to meditate, and then the bell comes, and then there's this sense of just letting go. Yeah, so it's good to we can almost, like, during the meditation, we can almost pretend that the end bell is there, so we don't have to do anything. We can just rest and relax and yeah. Um,
Well, I thank you very much, both of you, for being here. I really appreciate it.
yeah, you too. Thank you. It's really yeah, it would be interesting to whenever, like we talked about last time, whenever people come together to practice, there's always some kind of shared karma, and we've planted the seeds to be able to practice together, by practicing together, over many lifetimes. And it would be pretty cool to be able to see all the karmic connections that are there, and all the karmic seeds that are currently ripening and manifesting as us practicing together. But I guess the only way to be able to do that is to become a fully enlightened Buddha, and then I guess then we'll know. Yeah, I thought I would mention also, regarding this type of practice, or this type of meditation. So there's two ways of viewing Buddhist practice, you could say. So one way is like the progressive way, like where you it's like the Buddha nature we have, that's like 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 an acorn. An acorn has the potential to become an oak tree, but it's not currently an oak tree. But if if you water it and you give it the good perfect conditions, then it can grow and mature and suddenly, or eventually rather, become an oak tree. So from the progressive view of practice, then we are these sentient beings with lots of confusion and afflictions, and but then we also have we have this Buddha nature, which is our potential to grow into a fully matured, a fully enlightened Buddha. And the way we do that is by like the Buddha said, we cultivate which is virtuous. We stop doing that which is non-virtuous, and we fathom our minds. So that's a gradual process. We have the Lamrim, the graduated path, where you step by step move towards enlightenment. So and there's no limit to compassion. There's no limit to the extent to which compassion can be cultivated. There's no limit to the extent to which love, unconditional love, and kindness can be cultivated. And also all the negative aspects of our minds. There's nothing that cannot be purified. There's nothing that cannot be eliminated from the mind. So we can, we can work to become more patient. We can, we can cultivate love and wisdom and compassion. We can apply antidotes when, when there's miserliness or envy or jealousy, and we can slowly just purify our minds from all of the afflictions, all of the delusions, all of the obscurations. And having done that, eventually, then we'll become first level bodhisattva, and second, third, up to 10th level bodhisattva, and then eventually we'll just break the last and final bonds, and we'll be a fully enlightened Buddha. And from Sutrayana perspective, that whole process is like they talk about 3 great countless eons. So it's a long time, you life by life by life by life, you keep on cultivating and keep on moving towards enlightenment. So that's the progressive path, and that's completely valid. That's the Lam Rim. That's the graduated path towards enlightenment. But then there's this other way of viewing practice, which is prominent in Vajrayana or Mantrayana practice, where they actually also speak about reaching enlightenment in the span of one lifetime. So kind of skipping the 3 great countless eons. But the idea in Vajrayana practice is that so we, in a sense, we are already enlightened. That which we strive to achieve is actually already available and present right here. So then the practice becomes bringing the end result of the path into the present. So then, the actual practice then is cultivating what's called pure vision. So seeing the world already as a fully enlightened Buddha would see it, which is we would see the world that we're already inhabiting as a pure land, as perfection, hearing all sounds as mantra and seeing all forms as emanations of the Buddha, and so on. And also visualizing ourselves as a fully enlightened Buddha. So you would have a sadhana practice where you emanate yourself as a deity like Tara or Avalokiteshvara, and so on. So we're bringing the end result into the present moment. But the point of doing that is to realize that, in fact, we are, in a sense, we are not sentient beings. We have never been sentient beings. We're just, it's just a conceptual designation that we believe so fully in. So yes, on a relative level, there is the sentient beings with all the problems and all the misery. But on an ultimate level, there's just this Buddha, I guess, that is in a sense already here. So the meditation we just did is kind of in that second type of practice, where we try to recognize and identify, this space of awareness, this Buddha mind that we already have, that is already in the nature of love and compassion, that is already just a manifestation of wisdom energy. And both types of practice are valid and necessary. And also some people will connect more with one type of practice. So again, in the Theravada tradition, there's nothing like the Vajrayana practice of taking the end of the path into the present. It doesn't, from that perspective, that would be like make believe, like playing like a child's game. It doesn't make sense. What makes sense from that perspective is to just follow the teachings of the historical Buddha and refining our minds until we can free ourselves from suffering and reach nirvana, reach our own personal liberation from suffering. So if and that's, again, it's not higher or lower, it's more about what is our karma, what do we connect with, what makes sense to us. If we, for example, if we do this type of meditation, does that resonate with something in us? Does it ring true? Does that type of practice make sense? And then even so, then we're still in a sense back to trying to cultivate the 6 perfections, trying to be more generous, trying to be more patient, trying to see things more clearly, and slowly becoming a bit more loving and a bit more compassionate, a bit more caring to ourselves and others. So in a sense, we're back in that that progressive, gradual sense of practice. But at least for me personally, I find it very, very helpful to tap into whatever it is we're tapping into, this space of awareness, this inner field of potentiality, this deeper or higher level of who we are, and that's something that we can do. That is really good to do throughout the day. Like we're encouraged to have, you can have like a mindfulness practice where you have these moments of mindfulness throughout the day. And this is this would be like an awareness practice where you and again, this is also then a way of cultivating refuge. So a few times per day, you can just pause, and then you remember your refuge. You remember the outer refuge of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. But then you also remember the inner refuge of what those things are actually pointing to, that level of being that is already present in you. And see if you can connect with that. See if you can, in a sense, surrender to that. See if you can develop a deeper and deeper and deeper trust in that. So the refuge we currently have, we take refuge in our thoughts. We think if only I can figure things out, then then I'll be happy. I have this problem, and if only I can work through it and solve it, and So then we worry and we ruminate and we just run around in circles. It's like we think it's like an equation we need to solve. But maybe, just maybe, the solution is to sometimes just release all of it, just let all of it go. So the things we, take refuge in, the things that we think will protect us and keep us safe and fulfill us, all those things on the relative level, which are just, all of them are completely impermanent. You can solve all your problems by just waiting, and one way or another they will all go away. But so instead of taking refuge on that very relative level and in thoughts and in intellect and all that, then sometimes it's really beneficial to just release all of that and just rest in this spaciousness, in this immovable, vast, open, clear dimension of our being. That is, again, in the nature of love. And then just bringing, from that, if we can tap into that space, if we can rest in that space, then we can bring that into the relationship we have with ourselves. So there's this, so we can meet ourselves from a place of open, loving presence. Meet ourselves with all our perceived shortcomings and faults and all the things we should be doing better and faster and more often and blah, blah, blah. Even this project of self-improvement, of, becoming something that we're not, becoming better and wiser and all of that. Just release all of that and just rest in this space of loving presence, of openness. And then we can bring that to our relationships with other people, our relationships with those who are close to us, our children, our partners, our parents, our friends. And then we can meet them and offer them this space, offer them this space of acceptance and openness, unconditional love. And hopefully we can even bring that to all this, the strangers in our lives, the people to whom we don't have an opinion of them, we don't have a relationship to them. They're like the extras of the movie of our life. But maybe we can start to see them, and when we meet them, the person in the checkout in the grocery store, or the bus driver, or whomever, we can also bring to that meeting the same sense of spacious openness, of love and care and concern that is already there. That doesn't need to be, doesn't need to be created or contrived or forced. We can just kind of tap into it deeper and deeper and deeper, and just unveil what is already there. Like cleaning a mirror, cleaning the grime off a mirror and seeing that, like that clear and open, reflective mirror was always already there. We just needed to tap into it, unveil it. And then maybe we can even bring that to, our so-called enemies, the people who push all our buttons, might even be the politicians on TV, the people who trigger us. And as we're getting triggered, as anger arises, maybe even hatred arises, see if we can, again, take that step back and identify more with that open spaciousness, tap into a deeper level of who we are, and then meet this difficult person from that space. And yeah, so that's, this kind of meditation, hopefully it can help us to be able to tap into this throughout the day. And if we're able to do that, that will completely change our relationship to ourselves, and it will completely change our relationship to others. And if we start being able to do that, then we have found a true refuge. Then we have found something that we can trust in completely, and that we can surrender to completely. We have found a safe place, which is reality. Okay, yeah, I think that might be all I had for today. So I'll just check if there are any, and if there are any remaining questions or reflections, concerns.
One of my other questions from the middle way was, what is a middling Buddha? I'll find it, but all these questions he asked, I thought I was studying, but I guess I'm not, because I don't know. Middling Buddha, or is that talking about the middle capacity person? You know how there's the less capacity person and the middle one, and then the exceptional. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard the term middling Buddha. I think, if you're a Buddha, you're a Buddha. There's like no levels to it, but I mean, there's certainly levels to, to practitioners. You have practitioners of lower, middling, and high capacity, or that's also, that's something that could very, very, very easily be misunderstood. But yeah, but I never heard of a middling Buddha. So maybe if someone,
I'll figure it out. I figure these things out. I'll let you know next class. Your next group.
No, if you find it, please share it, because that would be interesting. But
yeah, that's Chernoff. Do you know him, George Chernoff? George Chernoff. George Chernoff. He's a venerable.
Yeah.
He's a physics doctor, and he's really, really strict with the school part.
George?
He's cool. I like him. Chernoff, yeah.
George? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm
but yeah, he's an older guy. Anyway, whatever. He's a hard teacher.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Or
for me, a comment is the only thing that kept going through my mind when you started talking about, that, Buddhismhood is already within. I just kept thinking to myself, girl, get out of your own way. What? You're the only reason why this isn't happening.
Yeah.
And maybe I wouldn't have to build so many, was it towers of Milrapa?
Mhm.
Had to build
Yeah.
these. Master kept having them build these. Hey, maybe I can just do this by getting out of my own way instead of building all these gigantic towers. Building them and then tearing them apart, building them and tearing apart in one lifetime. I don't know. Yes.
Hmm.
But anyways, yeah, sorry.
I like that.
No,
I like that.
that's
That's great.
yeah. I think that's wonderful. I think yeah, you can probably express the entire Buddhist path as getting out of your own damn way. I mean, yeah, we don't make it easy for ourselves. That's for sure. And yeah, having said that, I will get out of your way. And
I stayed on that camera longer than I usually do. Thanks for the compliment, Kayla. I'll see you around. Love you guys. Bye.
okay, bye everyone, and I'll see you next time.